Okay, we're using lesson 1 from Sohr's Opus 31 to discuss how to vary repeats. It was something that was definitely done, and Sohr's compatriot and friend Dionisio Aguado showed us 5 different ways of varying one bar of Sohr's music. And if you look at these on the screen, 5 different ways, again more and more complex. So, you know, these were improvisers. All the players wrote their own music, so they were all composers, and they could improvise music, and they inherited from the Baroque era this idea of varying repeats. Now, you don't have to do it. You can just play the same thing twice beautifully and it'll sound great. But it's fun. I think this is the main thing I want to get over. It's fun to try and just dream up little variations to what the composer wrote. And where you have, say, an A section and a B section, each section is repeated. Well, during those repeats, you can maybe add in a few notes here and there, just to, you know, bring a bit of a change to what you're hearing. So I'm going to go through what I did, and as examples of how you could do your own variations, and then we'll look at Fernando Sohr and how he varies his own music. So I'm just going to look at the repeat I did of the A section. Instead of that, I did a little scale. But if I go to the next note in the scale, I end up on an F. I want to end up on a G. So I need a little leap at the end. And Sohr liked a lot of hammer-ons, so moving on. Now this bar, they're called dyads. You know, you get triads, which are 3-note chords. These are 2-note chords, dyads. And it's often good to split the dyads, or the high note first. And you could make them triads in this case by having an open G in between. If you want. Perfectly acceptable. Moving on. This is an upper mordant. When you play a note, hammer on to the note above and then pull off. That's it's just a single note that's written, but you get 3 for the price of 1. Okay. Now this is a chute, C-H-U-T-E, where if I'm playing a D on the B string, I can play B, C, D, just hammer them on. Do it quickly, and it's called a chute. In the B section, there's more variety. Now this top note goes to an E in the next bar, and then a D in the bar after that, and a C, so it's going down. What we're going to do is a suspension. So we take the F, we play it again over the next bass note, the C bass note, but we immediately pull it off. Now to do one on the D, we'd have to change position and do this. And there's a G in between, and it gets awkward. Now Kirkasi comes to your help here, because he talks about what I call a cross-string slur, where you take the two notes of a slur and you play them across string. You just hammer down your pinky or any other finger you're using, and you get the two notes without striking the second one, because there's a possibility you might hit it too hard. Now when you're doing your hammering down, don't do it hard, because the whole point of slurs is that the second note is softer than the first, quieter, sort of. Yeah, so that's what we're going for. So we can do a cross string slur there. Keep it going. Did we do that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We did it 5 times. Yeah, it seems okay. Moving on, we've got 5 G's here, and we want to do something with that. So the last 3 I do a scale. But again, I'm going to arrive at the E too soon. So I'm going to put in a passing note, D sharp, which means I arrive on time. And then I'm going to repeat a couple of things I did earlier. In bar 2 I did, and I'm going to do that here. And then I'm going to do that upper mordant, which I did in bar 11, but then I'm going to do something new, downward scale with passing notes instead of it's the same thing but with little passing notes in between. And then we have dyads, single note, split the dyads. Now at the end I'm repeating the C above the bass line. So that B section. Now, before I go on to Saur's own variations, I'm going to just very briefly look at the start of lesson 2. It starts with an arpeggio, and we could turn that into a scale when we come back to that passage later. A little leap at the end, so I can get on that F when I need to. There, the melody is just G sharp to B, and I'm just hammering an A in between. Now this bit goes, okay, now what I'm going to do there is called, the French call it inégal. Yeah, a little bit more playful, so I changed the rhythm. You can do that, you can change rhythms a bit. So, moving on to lesson 3, we're going to have a look at what Saur does. This is what we call through composed. There's no repeats, no sections, just from the first bar to the last one composition. And we're going to look at the opening phrase and how he repeats that, varies it. In bar 4, at the end of bar 4, it starts again. And listen for the variation. So we get that instead of. Now, these notes are all present, but he's added an A at the beginning, and this is an appoggiatura. That's a fancy name for it. So we're going to play a G, we put an A in before it and go on to it. Oops. So a simple thing, appoggiatura, but it makes a difference. Where else? Oh yeah, in bar 16, those opening 2 notes, the upbeat, now become 3. Again, very simple thing to do is A and G, let's play them with a chromatic passing note. Simple but effective. And then in bar 20, the end of bar 20, starts the phrase again. Have a listen to the variation. Okay. Now it starts off with that appoggiatura we had earlier. Then he does another appoggiatura and another. Now instead of, you might point that out a bit more. You know, you can vary the rhythm. There's one variation he does which I love. It's not that opening phrase. It's in bar 3. We start with a G chord. We go on E7, which is the dominant of A. And so how does he do that in bar 19? So the bass takes off. So he's kept the treble the same, but he's added in notes in the bass. So anyway, you've got thousands of studies where you can look and see how composers would vary their own music, and you could try your hand at adding a variation on the repeat sections. But there's no real reason to keep them just to repeats. As Sor does in his composition, the same idea keeps coming back, he varies it. You can do that throughout compositions, any type of composition. That's it, you're meant to have fun with this music. You know, it's there to have fun with, play with, enjoy it, and be creative with it. Don't just play exactly what's written and stress about doing that. Now, it's hard enough, I know, to just play what's written many times. So you don't want to be worrying about variations and so on. But once you've got something under your fingers, you're quite confident with it, then you can start looking at different ways of playing it. And you'll be sounding more like a 19th century guitar player then. That's it. Bye.